Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again, ready to talk more classic Who with my wonderful co-host, wonderful friend, and special guest companion who hasn't been on for far too long, John Takacs. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, John. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me back. Oh, I get the applause, too.
You get the applause, yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, you haven't been on for a while. Of course you deserve some applause.
Yeah, thanks to COVID, been working a lot.
Yeah, so I know you've been busy. I know you've been working in the restaurant and trying to find enough help, and things are a struggle right now. So I really appreciate you coming on and making some time for us to talk a classic Peter Davison story today.
Absolutely.
So here at episode 231, John and I are going to be talking Enlightenment. Fun little story. I really like this story from the Peter Davison era. And it's kind of a personal fave from that era for me. And when John originally pitched this idea last year, I put it, far ahead on the schedule, and just the way things worked out, the schedule was wrapping up, and I thought, well, let me reach out and make sure John still wants to talk about this. So thankfully, I really appreciate that you said yes, because we can finally do this one after, the year of COVID hell that we've all been experiencing. So how you been doing in all this madness? We haven't talked to you since, I think, back when, episode 204, when we talked State of Decay, if I recall correctly.
Back.
It was a while back. It was like October 2020, if I recall correctly.
Yep. Yeah.
For Halloween, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was. It's been, like I said before we started recording. It's been busy at the restaurant. We haven't slowed down, and we're actually doing pre-COVID sales with half the staff.
Really?
So yeah, and it's just staffing issues left and right, but yeah, we're pulling through, doing like 6-day weeks every other week, but
okay.
we do what we do. So it's if I gotta put a few things on the back burner, it's all in a good cause and all in a good paycheck too.
Well, like we were talking about, hopefully the overtime doesn't hurt too much in that regard. But yeah, I'm sure it's been crazy. So you're like doing your standard business that you were doing before the pandemic hit, only with less staff.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive, really.
It's challenging, to say the least.
Well, at least you still have customers, so that's good. That hasn't.
Yeah, that's they've kept us afloat.
Sounds like you've got a very loyal client base, customer base.
Oh, yeah, it's
yeah.
They just love coming in, so.
Yeah, I can't remember if I've mentioned this or not, but my parents, they owned a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week family restaurant when I grew up. So from like the time I was 7 to the time I was 19, I essentially grew up in a restaurant, in a family restaurant. So I kind of get the struggle. I really do. So my heart goes out to you, but
well, you
that sounds like you're hanging in
a lot
there.
Of people don't.
Yeah, it is crazy, and you always worry about if you're going to lose too much help, or your customers, you hope that your customers keep coming back, and then you've got supply issues, with food and whatnot to worry about, scheduling employees and all that, and hoping that they don't get sick, especially in this pandemic. So,
which has happened, yeah.
So that's been another challenge, I guess. So,
yep.
So yeah, I kind of get it. I really do, and so I feel very sympathetic towards you right now. But it sounds like you got at least somewhat of a handle on the craziness a little bit.
Yeah, we're doing actually really good. So it's there's stores that are struggling, but we're doing really good for ourselves.
Good. All right. So Enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
This was one that you kind of wanted to talk about. So before we get into it, what was your reason? Was this a personal favorite of yours, or is just something that was, still out there, available, that kind of piqued your interest?
Well, let me enlighten you.
Oh, I see what you did
So,
there.
I was waiting for that.
This is the John I missed.
This one has always been a favorite of mine. I've been on record when we were talking about Warriors of the Deep saying I'm not the biggest Turlough fan,
Mm-hmm.
but this is his episode. This is his story to shine. And who doesn't like a good race?
Yeah.
When I saw this years ago on
Space race, no
PBS,
less.
yeah, I was like, this is like the coolest thing. You've got all these different kinds of ships from different eras and different people, but then it's all modern on the inside, and they're they're not human. They're Eternals, and they look down on humans, but they use them, and just the whole look and feel of the story itself too. You think when you think of the BBC, you think of like lavish costumes and great actors and all this, and it really shines in this one. You see the costumes, you hear the music's actually another character in the story in this one.
Right.
So it's always been a favorite of mine.
Okay. I recently watched, doing my rewatch, I did the special edition version that's available on the DVD.
I was going to ask you which version you watched.
Yeah, I did the special. I mean, I've seen the original version several times, so I'm very familiar with it. But I did the special edition version because I kind of wanted. I've only watched that a couple times, and I kind of wanted to be reminded. It's been a while, so I wanted to be reminded of the upgrades and special effects and the way this was edited, because I think it kind of cuts out a little bit of material that bogs down the story. I think it's a better paced version.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it conveys the story better with the special effects and improvements and whatnot.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think this one has more updated effects shots than any other DVD release with the updated effects.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think Fiona Cumming, the director of the original, this is almost like a director's cut version.
Yeah.
So she completely, re-edited it, with the new effects and whatnot. And consequently, I think a lot of the problems of the original production are kind of solved, I think. I think the story flows better.
Yeah.
So I was kind of curious if you felt the same about that.
Yeah, taking a page out of Jesse's book, the pacing is really, really good in this version.
Right. See, he should be here with us to talk about the pacing in this one, I guess, the improved pacing. So this one is, just to give a quick overview, this is the fifth serial from season 20 back in 1983. Written by Barbara Clegg, who sadly never wrote for Doctor Who again.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Directed by Fiona Cumming, who thankfully did direct again. She actually directed the previous episodes Castrovalva and Snake Dance, and then returned again for Planet of Fire, which of course was Turlough's final episode. So it's almost kind of like she's the Turlough director a little bit in this one. Starring, of course, Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor, Janet Fielding as Tegan Jovanka, and Mark Strickson as that ever-shady Vislor Turlough.
Ever shady's right.
Yeah, exactly. Although he does try to, he finally breaks free a little bit at the end of this.
Yeah,
he
proves himself.
He does. So guest cast, we have Keith Barron as Captain Stryker. And every time I see the name Captain Stryker, I'm thinking of Airplane.
Yes.
The sequel, where there's that line by Lloyd Bridges where he goes, Stryker, 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 and then he goes, Stryker, and then the guy behind him, hits a woman.
Not condoning that.
Not condoning that, no. But keep in mind, this is the 80s. It was more of a visual pun gag. So, let's put that in its context a little bit. But that's what it reminds me of every time I see that name. He played the character Isaac Barkley in the Fifth Doctor Big Finish Audio, Plague of the Daleks. And his last role for Doctor Who was the character Lord Tulip in a Tom Baker Big Finish Audio, The Bad Penny. Christopher Brown plays Mariner with 2 R's because, hey, he's immortal. He gets that extra R, I guess. He turned up in the movie The Remains of the Day, featuring Sir Anthony Hopkins. And interestingly, he turned up on Miami Vice, of all things, and the 1986 Twilight Zone. So I thought that was interesting. Linda Barron, who John and I are pretty familiar with because, well, she plays Captain Rack here, the captain of the pirate ship. And she, we talked about her previously as the singer of the horrible, horrible song, "The Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon," from the Gunfighters, back when John and I talked to Gunfighters, if you remember that.
Oh, it was another fun episode.
Yeah, that was a fun episode. And she also returned later in Modern Who as Val in the episode Closing Time, which we're going to be talking about here in a couple of weeks. So I guess this is Linda Barron month here on Next Stop Everywhere, unofficially. She also turned up on the HBO series Rome, which featured a number of Doctor Who stars and Torchwood stars, so I thought I'd mention that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the late great Valentine Dyall as the Black Guardian with his ever cool voice. And his
the man gargles with gravel.
Pretty much, but it works for him totally.
It does.
He's got this awesome, sinister voice. Now, obviously, we last saw him originally in the Fourth Doctor story, The Armageddon Factor, from the Key to Time season.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because this is, it's the Black Guardian trilogy, as a lot of fans like to refer to it. So this is, he also appeared in Modern Undead and Terminus, which we still have to talk about. So that one's kind of hanging out there because it's not as good as Modern Undead and Enlightenment, but it's still out there in case anybody wants it. Just putting that out there. Mm-hmm. Because timey-wimey, we'll talk it out of order. No big deal, right? Now, being a Douglas Adams fan, of course, I have to mention that he did the voice of Deep Thought in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy TV series, and he was phenomenal in that. Loved his voice in that one. And notably, another Doctor Who James Bond connection, because he appeared in the 1967 movie Casino Royale, which has featured apparently a lot of Doctor Who actors.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was in there too.
Because it seems like I turn around every few episodes and mention that somebody was in that 1967 Casino Royale. And lastly, we have Cyril Luckham, who plays the White Guardian, because, hey, you can't have a Black Guardian without a White Guardian, right? And this is his return to Doctor Who after appearing in the Tom Baker story, The Ribos Operation, which was the very first story in the Key to Time season.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I'd mention that. Trivia, which, of course, is John, his moment to shine comes through. So the trivia that I have, and feel free, to chime in here. This was the very first Doctor Who production to have been written and directed both by women. And it's the only one until very recently when the Witchfinders aired. Mm-hmm. That was the second. So consider that. From the time Doctor Who started to the Witchfinders, there have only been 2 stories that have been written and directed by women. Interesting.
Yeah, that's hard to believe.
For a show that prides itself on its diversity a little bit, seems like a rather egregious oversight. A little bit. Now, writer Barbara Clegg submitted a story idea to Doctor Who script editor Eric Saward, who we've discussed notoriously on this podcast, and because he was an acquaintance from the BBC drama department. And she was interested in writing for the show and had been inspired when distant relatives had stayed with her and demanded constant entertainment during their visit. So she based the characters of the Eternals, obviously, on them. Mm-hmm. So, hey, here's my annoying relatives. Let me turn these into Doctor Who aliens.
Right.
Right?
Which I think we've all done in the past.
Wouldn't surprise me how many, if there's others out there that have done the same, right? Turning their family members, their horrible family members, into alien characters on Doctor Who. She also, I guess, got some inspiration from the Bible, that book, maybe you've heard of it, deriving the prize of enlightenment from the tree of knowledge in the book of Genesis.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And she also used the idea of the solar winds. This is obviously sci-fi audiences are more familiar with them these days, but back in the 80s, not a lot of people knew about those. So, she kind of must have been reading some science journals or saw something on television about them and used those to develop the premise of the Eternals racing through the solar system. So, on solar sails.
Very cool idea.
It was. I thought so.
Yep.
Now, if you're wondering about that photo about Auntie Vanessa, Tegan's aunt that appeared way back in Logopolis, the last Tom Baker story, obviously it's featured here as one of the items that Mariner creates from the contents of Tegan's mind. Mm-hmm. Well, that photo was specifically shot for this filming. So they got the actress, Delore Whiteman, who obviously played the character previously in Logopolis, to be contracted for a one-day shoot. So imagine that, here it is years later. Hey, would you come back and let us take some photos so that we can use that in the story? We're not going to feature you in the story. We just want your photo.
Hopefully she got paid for it.
I would hope so. It sounds like if she was under contract, I would have to think they had to pay her at least some minimal union fee or something, I guess. Right?
Or if they couldn't have gotten her, they could have used a picture of the little doll in the car.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been an interesting photo to put by Tegan's bedside, right?
From her memories.
Yeah, exactly. Mariner
not all good memories.
Mariner would just pull that out and go well, I pulled that from your mind,
right?
but it's her corpse. You have a picture of her corpse in this photo.
See, this is the kind of humor you get when I'm on the show.
I know, and I love that. This is why I want you on more often, John. I know you're busy. But this is why I was like, I need John to come back on this podcast.
I know you're working 65 hours a week, but come on.
It's not enough, No, I know you're busy, so that's why I'm always appreciative when you do. But it doesn't mean I don't want you on here more, obviously. Because I do enjoy talking to you. I really do. So I think we get along well. I hope you feel the same.
Oh, I do.
All right. So visual effects designer Mike Kelt was apparently a little shocked that the TARDIS console was extremely dilapidated by this point. Remember, this is before the Five Doctors, where the Fifth Doctor gets that spiffy new TARDIS console.
Oh, yeah.
Which I really love. It's one of my, I think it's my favorite from the classic era. Mm-hmm. But apparently he was worried about damaging it while filming the explosion from part one. Maybe he thought that it would be completely, consumed by fire, I guess.
One too many explosions over the years?
A little bit. So we asked John Nathan Turner, hey, can we replace this? Because it's crap. But, of course, John Nathan Turner, being John Nathan Turner, told him, there's no money available. Mm-hmm. Wah, wah. So, sorry about your luck. But, of course, yeah. J&T got a J&T this one. And this I had to mention because it's just so damn humorous. John probably knows what I'm talking about. Janet Fielding struggled with her low-cut ball gown, that she wears during the course of filming in this one, as apparently it threatened to expose her breasts on a number of occasions. And at one point, Peter Davison, I guess, was reciting a line of dialogue and then concluded it with the ad-lib, "Oh, and Tegan, put your boobs back in."
Yes.
Whereupon Janet Fielding realized that she accidentally exposed herself to the crew.
Yeah, apparently if she just moved to the side the wrong way.
Right. It just popped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, it's understandable that it happened, given, I get it, but I feel bad for Janet Fielding, and I'm sure, in that time period, she was less than thrilled about that.
Well, you got to figure that's probably where the money went that couldn't fix the TARDIS console. It went into her costume.
Right. So do we blame the writer or do we blame the costume designer on this one?
It's the 80s, so just blame J&T.
See, I always thought that, being the BBC, they just had like a ton of these in storage and they used one that was just lying around.
Yeah. And look at the dinner party later on in the story.
Yeah.
A lot of costumes.
But anything else you want to add to the trivia, or do you think we've pretty much covered it?
No, no. I even with my tight schedule right now, I was able to look some things up, and you covered them all right
All
there.
right. I think those are the highlights.
Yes.
I mean, there's obviously a little minutia stuff, but
Yeah,
I think these are the ones that probably interest most people. Hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully you're interested.
I had the costume, the wardrobe malfunction on there too. So it's like, yep.
Well,
So you
once
got
I
that one
saw
too.
that, I'm like, I got to mention this one. Obviously,
Yes.
that's pretty. That one's I think would pique some wake some people up. I guess I don't know.
Hmm.
All right, so we're going to do 3 topics today. It's going to be very simple, I think. This
Hmm.
one. So let's talk for the first topic. Let's talk the Fifth Doctor, of course. Hey, my doctor, as I'm fond of saying. Vislor Turlough. Let's talk about Turlough because this is one of his biggest stories during his run.
Yep.
And let's talk about those ever enigmatic black and white guardians
Hmm.
who I noted, I kind of noticed this, when I was doing my rewatch that this episode kind of starts off with Tegan and Turlough playing chess. And if you think about chess, you got, white versus black, right?
Right.
So it's kind of symbolic and almost kind of bookends the story a little bit because at the end you have the actual black and white guardians
Hmm.
playing this game with Turlough as one of the pawns.
That's one of the palms. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of very symbolic. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I can't remember which who had white and who had black though.
Probably Turlough had black, I'm guessing.
I'm guessing it probably would be. I've
Yeah,
seen it 3 times in the last like 4 weeks, but
yeah, I should have noted this while I was doing the rewatch, but
Mhm.
but I would if I'm gonna guess, I have to think Turlough was black and Tegan was white, right?
I would hope so for the way the story flows.
Right, right. It works much better that way, of
Mhm.
course. All right. So let's talk about the Doctor and let's talk about Turlough first. The Doctor, he kind of gets this. They're traveling on this, and like I said, I guess the TARDIS lights aren't coming on, or it's very dim, very darkly lit in the console room.
Hmm. It's a nice orange hue to it.
Right, exactly. So I kind of like it's almost like very moody and atmospheric, for which you
Yeah.
don't really get in
Hmm.
the
Not in the
especially
classic series.
not in the classic series. So at least not until Paul McGann, at least.
Hmm.
So so the Doctor's concerned about the power drain, and then all of a sudden the White Guardian pops up in this, attempting to convey a message to the Doctor, a warning. It's something, or actually a mission about what the White Guardian wants to do, and this obviously sets up a chain of events where the Doctor and they materialize on this ship. So I want to get your thoughts on what you thought of the Doctor being drawn into this game that the Guardians are playing, and obviously we need to talk about Turlough, who gets paired up with the Fifth Doctor through most of the story,
Hmm.
where it's almost like Turlough. This is almost like Turlough's redemption story. Although there's obviously a lot of concern here that I think the Fifth Doctor has been watching Turlough very closely. So, what are your thoughts about the Doctor and Turlough here?
Well, I think the Doctor in this story, he really strong, really really good performance by Peter Davison. And he obviously has a strong feelings towards the Eternals because when he and Stryker are talking to each other, it's not like a friendly conversation. It's kind of like more like a one-sided argument that's going back and forth. But yeah, it's I think by this time he has an idea of that. Yeah, Turlough's not the greatest person in the world, and he's kind of got to watch his back. But he's not really coming out and saying it as of such. And he's just keeping it in the background. But I thought they worked really well together in this one. Like I said before, I'm not the biggest Turlough fan. I never have been. But this was a really good story for him. And he took a little bit of took charge in Warriors of the Deep. But this one, yeah, he was. This was a Turlough story from start to finish.
So, having watched Modern Undead and Terminus, do you kind of see this as Turlough coming out of this darkness that that we know that the Black Guardian has kind of kept Turlough in his thrall a little bit. He's gave him that kind of contact crystal to keep tabs on him, to communicate with him, and whatnot. And Turlough's kind of kept this around, knowing that relying on the Black Guardian when he needs help or feels that he needs help. But it's something that's obviously been weighing on Turlough. So here in Enlightenment, everything kind of gets brought to a head. It's the conclusion of the Black Guardian trilogy. So obviously, it kind of wraps up this subplot. And, and I like Turlough that I think he this is where he starts to realize that he bet on the wrong horse with the Black Guardian. It's obviously, to use a Star Wars line, this deal's getting worse all the time. Yeah. And so he realizes, I think he realizes his mistake. And the Doctor by now has proven himself to Turlough enough that Turlough has decided, well, I don't want to kill the Doctor anymore. Because you notice he doesn't really talk about that. Mm-mm. He may try to, throw the Doctor under the bus for the sake of trying to get in with Rack, Captain Rack, try to, get with her and, sway her that, he's loyal to her. But he doesn't want to do any harm to the Doctor anymore. That part, I think, has changed, right? Yeah,
and on the first two episodes in the trilogy, he was on a shorter leash than he was on this one. This one, he seemed to be kind of taking charge a little bit more for himself and realizing that he's okay, making a mistake, but he seems like he's always in it for him.
Yeah, it's almost like I think you're onto something there. I think up till now, I think Turlough is essentially been working for the Black Guardian. He hasn't really been in charge of his own destiny, and now I think he's asserting himself here, like you're saying. That he's realizing that, he doesn't want to be with the Black Guardian. He doesn't want to side with him anymore. So he's trying to take charge. And I think he feels that, and the Doctor kind of picks up on this, that he feels almost like he has to prove his loyalty to the Doctor by trying to help take out Rack.
Yeah, because if you look like in a lot of the scenes when they're together, not necessarily talking to each other, but when they're in the same scene together, the Doctor's always kind of giving him like this little side eye, like, okay, what's he doing now? Where's he at?
Right. He's always kind of feeling him out, isn't he?
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah, because I think by this story, the Doctor's onto something. He knows something's going on now.
Yeah. The one thing I thought was interesting was at one point, early on in the story, the Black Guardian has essentially said, okay, you're doomed to eternal life upon this ship. I'm done with you, and you're screwed. And Turlough by now, I think because of all this pressure weighing on him, cracks a little bit. He throws himself overboard into space, of all things. So do you see that as intentional, or, in the fact that he was counting on Rack to pick him up? Or do you see it as more like an attempt at suicide?
I personally think it was a suicide attempt because later on he says, I knew she was going to pick me up or something along those lines.
But I don't think that was the case, was it?
No.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to cover for the fact that, I just tried to commit suicide here.
Right. Yeah, he didn't want. Well, he tells everyone right off the bat that he's a coward. Yeah. But I don't think he wanted to admit it like right then and there, saying, I'm a coward, but I also tried to kill myself. Yeah. No, he didn't. He wasn't doing that. But it was. By that time, he was done. That was like sheer torment in his mind at that point in time.
Right.
So I think that was like the last ditch effort.
Yeah, I think so. And now the Doctor, like you said, he does have some issues with the Eternals. There almost seems to be like this weird cosmic hierarchy with like the white and black guardians on top, then the Eternals, then in the food chain of the cosmos, the Time Lords, I guess.
Who would probably be linked like put in the same boat with ephemerals.
Right.
I mean, even though they can regenerate, they're still. I mean, they can still die.
Yeah, they're still more. I mean, they may be long-lived, but they're not immortal.
Right.
And that's because I mean, even the captain's like, you're an ephemeral.
Yeah. And he says he's Time Lord. He says you're lord over such like a small estate or something like that. I think that was one of the lines. But yeah, he didn't care for the Eternals. I know that.
Right. Let's before we wrap this up, let's talk. We have to talk about this. Obviously, the conclusion of the story, where Turlough. Actually, we find out that the race is won by the Doctor,
right?
Who is offered enlightenment, this big cosmic prize, which we're told is the wisdom to know everything. And
back at the DVD here, the wisdom to find your heart's desire.
There you go. That's a much better description than what I had, I guess. And the Doctor doesn't want it. The Doctor refuses it. So the White Guardian says, well, Turlough, you did help. So technically you're entitled to a chunk of this.
Yeah, a chunk though.
Yeah, a chunk. Now they don't specify how much, right? They just said, a portion or whatever of this. So Turlough looks extremely tempted by this.
Oh, he's torn.
He is. he is. I mean, because he's right there, close up on this, this, glowing diamond-like jewel, representing enlightenment, and he's staring at it intently, and weighing all this stuff in his mind. You could see the gears turning in his head, smoke coming out almost. But ultimately, he decides that he refuses it and knocks the Enlightenment into the Black Guardian, somehow setting the Black Guardian on fire.
Right.
We don't know how, why, or was this just this cosmic energy consuming and what have you.
Yeah.
But so we're told later after the fact that by the Doctor that Enlightenment wasn't the jewel. Enlightenment was the choice.
The choice, yeah.
So what did you make of Turlough's choice in this regard?
Well, I think the Black Guardian actually kind of helped him make that choice, because that whole time when he's like just hypnotized by the light and the diamond, and the Black Guardian's in his ear just saying, "Okay, remember our agreement. The Doctor's mine," and he's just going over the whole, like, all the list of things that he wanted him to do. And at that point in time, Turlough was just like, "Nope, I'm gonna take care of myself." And that's when he gets the old slap, and we get that nasty, growly yell from Valentine Dyall.
Only much cooler, with a much cooler voice. Like that.
Yep.
But Turlough, I thought it was a very big moment for him. Obviously, it's the very symbolic moment that, hey, I'm rejecting evil. I'm accepting that the Doctor is my friend. I'm good now. I'm on Team Doctor now, as opposed to the Black Guardian. But I thought it was funny that after spending most of this trilogy, and especially this episode, where the Black Guardian tells Turlough, "Look, you're mine. You're under my thrall." Or later on, like, that's it. I'm done with you. You're screwed. So then at the end, when Turlough's offered a piece of enlightenment, suddenly he's like, "Hey, Turlough, remember, you work for me." And I'm sure Turlough is thinking, "Dude, you were willing to kick me to the curb not 5 minutes ago."
Right.
Before I got offered enlightenment, and now all of a sudden, I owe you.
It's kind of like if he takes it, he's still screwed, right? Because he still owes.
Yeah. So essentially, it's his. That's it. I'm done. I'm breaking up with you.
Yep.
And then that's presumably the last that we see of the Black Guardian, unless he turns up on Big Finish Audios, right?
Well, and remember at the end, the White Guardian said he's going to try one more time.
Yeah, third encounter.
Yep.
Still waiting for that third encounter,
I
Doctor
know.
Who.
Come on, Chibnall.
You would think, right?
Or Big Finish.
Or Big Finish. I don't care who.
Yeah.
You've recast before Big Finish. I'm sure you can find somebody that kind of sort of sounds like Valentine Dyall, right? Get John Colshaw, if you would. See if that works for you. But yeah, I want to see that third encounter because it's this dangling, untapped story potential idea. Or story idea potential, I guess.
Because you got to figure, the Key to Time was pretty much the first Guardian based story. So it's and you got that one, then you got this one, and we need the third one.
We need the trilogy, right? Everything works best in trilogy.
Yes.
So we get the King to Time saga. We had the Black Guardian trilogy. Let's get the third encounter.
Yeah. Let's get the Disney trilogy now.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
But I think out of all the stories in this trilogy, I think this is the strongest one.
Yeah, so you like this better than Modern Undead?
Yeah, I was never really a big fan of Modern Undead.
Oh, even with the Brigadier and everything.
Yeah, I think he's the only things I really like about the entire story.
Okay.
Right. It's one of those ones just not my cup of tea.
That's all right. I mean, each their own.
Terminus is it's a nice send off, but it's got like the sad moments, and this one just pulls everything together.
Yeah, I mean, it was Terminus. For those who haven't watched it, it's a very, very downbeat story, and especially because it's Nissa's last story. Mm-hmm. So, like, hot on the heels of leaving, Nissa leaving, now we get this wrap up of the Black Guardian trilogy, and so I think it comes out because by contrast, it's much more upbeat and optimistic by the end of this story. So
yeah.
All right. Anything else about the Dr. Turlough, the Black and White Guardians you want to talk about?
No, I think we got it.
Okay. Topic number 2, everybody. Let's talk about Tegan and the uber creepy Mariner. Her stalker. Her immortal stalker. Eternal stalker, I should say.
Eternal stalker.
The eternal stalker. Hashtag eternal stalker.
That makes it sound creepier.
Right. So Tegan is originally, early on after the Doctor gets the message from the White Guardian, Tegan's left behind in the TARDIS and is told by the Doctor, hey, just hang out, and if the White Guardian shows up, take a message, and and then be polite when he tells you something important, right? So she's kind of left hanging there. So she's kind of waiting around, and then all of a sudden we see this very creepy image on the monitor screen of Mariner, like his face coming like apparently right up on the TARDIS cam mounted on top of the TARDIS, right? So he's kind of like peeking in, peering almost. It's hard to tell if he was actually able to see Tegan inside. But, being an Eternal, maybe he has this ability. We don't know. But it's very creepy because he's watching her, and she's oblivious to it.
And isn't that the biggest you've ever, like the largest console screen you've seen in the series?
Right.
It was huge in this story. I don't know why.
Well, it's like this big close-up on the monitor screen, and Mariner's face just fills the entire screen.
Yeah.
So, which I might note is it's 4:3 as opposed to 16:9 because hey, it was the classic era, right? So, but it's a very creepy image, and then for whatever reason, it looks like Mariner falls off of what he was doing. So Tegan's like, okay, what just happened? And goes outside.
I'm thinking maybe he's climbing the TARDIS to try and look into maybe look into the light up on top and thinking it's a scanner or knowing it's a camera. Yeah,
but so Tegan goes outside, and this is where Mariner kind of, meets her and then takes her back to join the Doctor and Turlough with the captain. So what did you make of this pairing? Because Mariner spends most of the story just hanging around Tegan, and Tegan has like zero time for Mariner. Could care
Well, she's
less
got
about
zero,
this guy.
yeah, zero time and zero interest too.
Right, right.
I mean,
So it's like
the
he just
first thing,
he's just like this horrible dog that for whatever reason she can't shake from her leg.
and the first thing, one of the first things he says to her, he says, "Oh, you're a stowaway, so I'm going to put you in irons."
Like he's into bondage or something,
Yeah,
right?
I was reaching for a rape whistle right there.
Right. So Mariner becomes very quickly obsessed with Tegan. He finds her interesting simply because she's mortal.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, because he's an Eternal, he's surrounded constantly by other Eternals, so she's just something different that he just can't quite grasp. And he's constantly wanting her to think about things, and for reasons that we find out that apparently the Eternals are essentially blank slates until mortals show up to give them ideas, and thoughts and whatnot to draw from. So what did you make of Mariner just kind of almost like being a thought vampire?
He
Or like a
reminds
thought
me a lot
succubus almost.
Yeah,
Or
he was
incubus,
between
rather.
that and very childlike too.
Yeah.
He always wanted to know, like, okay, what are you feeling? Why are you feeling this way? What can I do to make it better?
Mm-hmm.
He just kept on. That's the first thing I thought of was just like a child looking for attention.
Yeah. He does come off of
And
that a little bit childlike and innocent in a lot of ways.
yeah, which makes it even creepier.
Yeah. Because,
But
here he is.
'cause you
He's
don't
this
see
big
that.
cosmic being. Yeah. And
You don't see that with the other Eternals.
no, you don't. You don't. And yeah, for whatever reason, just Mariner is just fascinated by Tegan.
Mm-hmm.
But again, she wants no part of this. He tries to, hey, look, well, here's your bedroom, and hey, here's your Auntie Vanessa, and again, thankfully, not her shrunken down version in the photo, but he's trying to recreate her home back in Brisbane,
Mm-hmm.
and he finds her so fascinating, full of life, yada yada, and so I kind of felt bad for Tegan, and very much in this regard that she just can't shake this guy.
Yeah. I think thankfully there wasn't somebody on board that she did fancy because
Right.
yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, I know. And Tegan ends up becoming a bit of a pawn by Captain Rack when Rack gets a hold of her
Mm-hmm.
and essentially does the whole whammy thing on her to pause her in time while she plants this focus crystal on her tiara
Mm-hmm.
to take back to Stryker's ship, the Shadow, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tegan goes back, and we find out that the focus is there. This crystal. Tegan's actually the one that actually, even after being almost hypnotized a little bit by Rack, actually figures out that the focus is in that tiara, and leads the Doctor to go back and try to destroy it. So. What did you make of Tegan? Because we kind of see her in this elaborate ball gown. We talked about it, and it's a very different look for Tegan. She's not used to being all fancied up. She's just this girl from Australia. A bit of a chip on her shoulder, and here she's kind of presented as something very fanciful. And did it interest you to see her in such a different way?
Well, she seemed more of a like a traditional companion in this one too. I mean,
Right.
like I said, Turlough was. This was his episode to shine,
Yeah.
but it was hers as well. She did. I love Tegan in this episode. It just seemed like she had more to do than just being a mouth on legs.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't just her snapping at people in this one.
Right, and with the costume, last time we saw her in the costume was in Black Orchid, and it's nice. It's nice to see the companions in something other than what we always see them in, like in every single episode.
Their traditional attire,
really cool.
yeah.
Right, and although the thing that was kind of strange was like, okay, she's we've got her before the ball, or before the big, you could say it was a ball.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she gets her dress and her hair gets all done up, then right after, her hair's flat right up against her head again. So
yeah, that one just quickly went by the wayside.
Exactly.
Almost like she was wearing a wig before, I guess.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But no, I
because
really
it seemed
enjoyed
more
Tegan
full.
in
It's
this
like,
one.
where did all this extra hair come from? It had to be a wig.
Yeah,
right?
it was just it must have been.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the with the jewel, and as soon as the doctor starts describing it, she's just like, "Oh yeah, I got one of those in my my tiara."
And the doctor's like, what?
Yeah, I hated the fact that, okay, just take the thing and throw it overboard. Don't hit it and then just pick up all the pieces.
That's what I'm saying. What is like?
Yeah.
Why is the doctor wasting his time trying to smash this thing into little itty bitty pieces? And obviously the irony is that doesn't destroy it. All it does is just create more pieces that they have to get off the ship.
Unless he thought by hitting it, it would damage it and it wouldn't work. But then you see all the little pieces glowing, and then they're scurrying to pick up all the pieces. I'm thinking to myself, man, it's for somebody who works around glass and stuff every so often.
Yeah,
you're going to cut yourself on that stuff.
Right. So you would think that, well, wouldn't it have been faster for him to just run up the stairs with this and throw it overboard? But apparently he thought, well, no, it'd be even faster if I smash it. That'll do it. And then he has to waste more time trying to pick up all those pieces.
When you could have taken that bit of rug and just pulled it up.
That's another thing. That's a great observation. Yes. Why didn't you just scoop up the rug? The question is, I guess, maybe I'm not sure how big the rug was. Did it go under furniture and whatnot? Because that would have made it a little harder to rip up, I'm guessing. Like the way maybe
it looked like a little throw rug.
Yeah, if it was just a little throw rug, we'll just scoop up the rug, man. Don't bother picking up the pieces. Yeah. Screw the rug. The rug is relevant,
Trying to get all these pieces.
You want to keep the rug, and or do you want to get blown up? So, but it was just a kind of a comedy of errors moment that you normally don't see from the doctor a little bit there.
And
then finally, Mariner is there when. Just after it's revealed that the doctor and Turlough weren't the ones thrown overboard. It was actually Rack and her first mate. So Mariner has, he's there, and he says that he's not ready to leave. He wants to be with Tegan once again. He's insistent, like, hey. The Guardians are like, okay, you guys can just scurry off back to your eternal realm now.
Yeah.
But Mariner's like, no, he resists. He's like, look, I want to be with Tegan. I have to be with Tegan.
It was his I don't want to go mode.
Right, exactly. I don't want to go. Yeah. He's going full David Tennant there.
Mm-hmm.
But Tegan is kind of like, meh. Go ahead. Bye. See ya.
Which just proves that throughout the entire story, she never developed feelings for him.
No, it was totally one-sided here.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, there were times that maybe he said something interesting that she reacted to, but that's as far as it went.
Mm-hmm.
This was totally a one-sided, interest.
Yep.
In her. So she's just like, okay, I'll see you later. Bye. And they all fade to eternity. Where presumably the doctor still walks, because remember the doctor walks in eternity. Walks in eternity, which is one of my favorite Tom Baker lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about Tegan and Mariner?
No, I think I don't think anybody wants to hear anything else about Tegan and Mariner.
He's so damn creepy. I'm sorry, he was. Now kudos to the actor who played him, Christopher Brown, because he did a really good job of playing Mariner as creepy.
Mm-hmm.
But a little too convincing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
A little bit. All right, so let's do our final topic. Topic number 3. Let's talk about Captain Rack, Linda Barron, who seems to be enjoying herself immensely as this eternal pirate captain. We can talk about Captain Stryker. And also let's talk more about the Eternals and a little bit about who they are. So, John, do you have any thoughts about Rack, especially because we find out, that she's also, like Turlough, working for the Black Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
And just when she's ready to throw Turlough off her ship, make him literally walk the plank into space, he tells her, like, hey, we're cool, like we're both working for the same bad guy.
Yep.
So what did you make of Captain Rack? Presumably the Black Guardian offered her a deal, kind of the
I
same
was
way.
thinking the same thing.
The way he offered a deal to Turlough.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. She was another agent of the Black Guardian, and that's why the White Guardian had to go try to find the Doctor, because at least if he's got the Doctor and his companions in his corner, at least he's got some backup there.
Right.
But Rack was pretty cool. I really did enjoy her. She was nobody said no to her, which means that she's proved herself as a good captain.
Yeah.
She was she knew how powerful she was. She knew how to get the job done, which was cool, because she's like yeah, we just we read their minds, and we found this little thing, and of course then you got people walking the plank, and they weren't ephemerals, they were Eternals that were walking the plank.
Yeah.
As Turlough even says, he's like, well, what's going to happen to them? And she's like, well, they'll just disperse and transcend, or whatever or transfer, however she said it. But
right.
Then she's like, okay, it's time for you to go up there. And he's just, the look on his face is like, oh, it's my turn now.
It's like, I'm not going to, transcend into an Eternal. I'm going to die if I do this.
And apparently, she's got celery stalks on her ship.
Yes, we didn't talk about that. Yeah, because so while she's hosting this party, essentially, kind of like trying to be the host for like a pause in the race, where all the captains can send representatives and whatnot. It's kind of more like a social gathering.
Yeah.
So while this is going on, this is where Tegan's all dressed up in this elaborate ball gown and whatnot. The Doctor comes over and finds, much to his appreciation, he's got like a whole ton of fresh new decorative vegetables to pull from.
It's like a vase full of celery stalks.
Right. And immediately, I love this moment by Davison. It's subtle, but it's very Fifth Doctor, where he picks up one of the celery stalks and then compares it against the celery stalk that's in his lapel, and decides, okay, I'm going to take this, and gets rid of the old one, puts it in like a suit of armor or something.
Yep.
Not just back on the table or whatever. He puts it in a suit of armor and then puts the new one and snaps that right on his lapel. Like it was born to be there.
It was just like one of those really cool Doctor scenes.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I would have been mad at myself for forgetting that.
It was between that one. I know we're talking about Rack now, but there's another good.
I appreciate.
Doctor scene.
It was a good segue. It was a little good segue. Yeah.
He's trying to decide which way he wants to go, so he flips the coin. He looks at the result. It's this way, but he really wants to go this way, so he flips it again to get the result that he wanted. That was like a classic Doctor moment right there.
Yeah, well, that's also that was one of the notable things about the Fifth Doctor. That was one of his little traits, is that he was very indecisive about which way he wants to go. When he's walking around the corridor and he comes to a crossroads, so he starts to go one way and then ends up usually going the opposite way. Yeah. Even if he flips a coin that says, okay, I'm going to go this way, he will intentionally take the opposite way. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to see that again here too. So,
but with Rack, I mean, that little party that she hosted, I'm sure that was she probably wanted to get all the captains those little detonators.
Yeah, the focuses. Yeah.
Well, yeah, just kind of get it on their person before they left her ship. Just like she did with the tiara with Tegan. Yeah. But it was pretty cool to see her like how she went about it, getting alongside of it, then going down to the lowest section of the ship, pulling the power from the Black Guardian, then the ship explodes. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, essentially, because what like that jewel that we were explained to is that this jewel is a focus that her device in the ship locks onto. It's almost like a targeting system that,
Right.
or it's it's this beacon that will help guide the device that that she uses to destroy ships, to aim it properly. So, yeah, I think obviously she would have done that to all the other captains. And it's one of the things I really liked about Rack is that she was, unlike the other Eternals, she's far more ruthless than the other ones. They did kind of try to give the Eternals a little bit of individual traits, like we saw with Mariner, and then here with Rack, is that even though they're these long-lived beings, they still have a little sense of self. They're not completely, just the same being, or just kind of like all in this gestalt. It's more like they do have some sense of individuality, and Rack's personality is that she's more ruthless, and that she's willing to kill, especially because she's working with a Black Guardian, right? So she's willing to kill the other people in the race to win.
Yeah, fair too.
Remember, winner takes all, as we're told by.
She's one of the first. She's always one of the first ships in the race.
Yeah.
So it's you can. I would have loved to have seen other Eternal captains just to see like some of the other ones. We saw the one before they got blown up, but that's all we did was see them. Yeah. But it would have been cool to see some of the other captains as well.
Yeah, I mean, we do see Stryker, of course, in Rack, but yeah, maybe just because of the sake of time.
Yeah, more than likely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if this had been like a 6-parter, you could have done that, but I think it would have dragged down the pace. As we talked about that the special edition, because it's trimmed a little bit more down than the standard edition, it improves that pacing. So if this had been drawn out to 6 episodes, you could have done the other captains, but I think it would have just dragged everything down.
Yeah,
a little bit. I'm gonna play Jesse Jackson on that regard.
There you go.
With my concerns about pacing here. So that's here's to you, Jesse. There's my tribute to you about story pacing. All right. Stryker. So Stryker, meanwhile, as a complete contrast to Rack.
Yeah.
Stryker's trying to play everything above board. He seems like, he makes a point of being proud about how accurately they've created this ship. Even though, yes, we find out that the ship is just, because it's a standard old sailing vessel, but it's updated so that it can travel in space. There's like secret computers in the navigation room, and it has solar sails instead of traditional sails, and a crew that apparently goes out in spacesuits to help man those sails. I guess we don't really get to see them do much. But apart from just get in their suits and go out there aboard on the deck,
take their drink and go upstairs.
Exactly. So, and to keep that crew in line, I'm glad you brought that up. That they're using rum, which apparently acts as like a mind control. I mean, not really a mind control, but just it kind of helps them not realize what they're doing. It keeps them in more.
Sounds like rum.
which sounds like rum, right? Yeah, exactly. If you've had too much of it. So maybe we need to do rum on Drunk Cinema, my other podcast with Dan Sprouse. But so we'll save that. We'll get a mental note for later, right? So do you find it interesting that because the officers are all Eternals, they rely on this ephemeral crew. And to get the ephemeral crew to do what they want, they have to drug them.
Well, you got fair too. I mean, a lot of them they don't even remember when they were brought on board.
Yeah.
So it could be a combination of both getting them drunk plus making them forget about things.
Yeah. One of the things go ahead.
Just slave labor, basically.
Yeah, essentially. And that was actually one of the earlier scenes that I really enjoyed in this one, where all the crew, I guess, are in this cabin, and the Doctor and Turlough show up, and you think, okay, this is going to get really awkward really quickly, until the crew kind of they kind of perceive the Doctor and Turlough as, well, hey, they're just new members of this crew, and hey, he's called the Doctor, so hooray for us because he's the cook, as we're
Yeah.
told, and which I love.
I love that when
I
saw
love
it.
Turlough's reaction. The Turlough is just hilarious. You know, he can't think this is funnier than he laughs. He tries not to laugh, but he's giggling to himself. He just can't control it. I thought that was very rare to see Turlough actually laughing at something
with a smile on his face. Yeah.
Right, amused by something. Yeah.
He says, "Oh, yeah, that's the cook."
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a little awkward for the doctor there, but I did like the fact that they were very welcoming, the crew, and I thought that was very interesting. Like they sit down, it looks like they're playing cards or whatever, and Turlough comes over, and then they put a hat on Turlough like he's just one of the guys.
Yeah, they were good characters too. They weren't just extras. I mean, there were a lot of them that had. I mean, they had their own like attitudes and personalities. And one of them was, I guess he was like 10 months dry, so he didn't even drink. So it was a nice variety with the crew.
Right, which kind of explained like why he wasn't affected by the rum, because he hadn't been drinking the rum.
Right.
So he was a little bit more aware of what was going on. He tries to tell that to Turlough.
Yep.
So it kind of advanced the story as a result. So I thought that was good.
Yeah.
But the Eternals are, pretty interesting race. Almost kind of like, very passive versions of, if you're a Star Trek fan, I would say, the Q continuum a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That they've been around forever, and these big, cosmic beings on this ridiculously grand scale. But ultimately we find out they're empty vessels. So what did you make of the Eternals as a race, species, what have you?
I thought it was interesting. It's just, I wish they'd come back to them to eat, and not as like a continuation of this, but to bring that race back, because I think nowadays with like in the new series, I think it'd be they could even be a really good villain.
Yeah, I think so, and
I think the only thing that might hold it back is the fact that, like you said, they remind us of Q.
Yeah,
that could kind of sway that. Be like, okay, well, we don't want a Q in our storyline.
But they were established already in the continuity, so I would think it'd be more like, well, hey, we're bringing back these old villains that haven't appeared since the classic era.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, and hey, we talked about it. Third encounter, Black Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right there, guys. Come on, make it happen. I'll be more than happy to write that story if you let me. So,
well, if you write the story, write a different kind of costume for them, because take the birds off their heads.
Yeah, with the bite. Yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing we didn't talk about is the Now, to be fair, the Black Guardians look kind of cool because, hey, he's got this raven on his head.
Yeah.
But the White Guardians, in contrast, I think they intended that it was supposed to look like a dove, perhaps.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
I think it looks more like a pigeon than a dove.
Pigeon.
Right? It's a pigeon. He's got a pigeon on his head. Like he's the statue in Trafalgar Square or something, I guess.
Yes. Either that or when Sylvester McCoy played Radagast, the bird poop all over.
The bird poop on the side of his shoulder or whatever. Yeah, on the side of his hat. Yeah.
I see where they were going with the raven and the dove, but it doesn't come off well on camera.
Well, like I said, I thought that the raven looked okay to me, especially with Valentine Dyall's grizzled, haggard face. But that the White Guardian, I felt bad for the White Guardian. I just like every time I see this, like, what were these people thinking? Did they not realize how dumb this looks, or that was the best they could get?
At least in the Key to Time, I mean, the White Guardian looked like the president of the High Council of the Time Lords. So that he had that almost like a Southernly gentleman type look.
Right.
That would have been cool.
Right. I love that part because he's. Because in the Ribos operation, he shows up in this kind of like this big, fancy wicker chair, And he's
Drinking
just kind
a
of,
mint julep.
yeah, he's got like a mint julep. You're right. He's just kind of kicking back, very laid back, casual.
Yeah.
And then here he is now with this pigeon on his head,
Mm-hmm.
just looking horrible. And the pigeon has these big bulgy eyes on it. It just looks so damn fake. It was a really bad look.
It was.
It's like you couldn't, touch that up a little in the special edition. I'm just saying. Maybe they decided it wasn't worth it, but I would have done it. So the only other thing I had was at the very end of the story,
Mm-hmm.
and Turlough asked the doctor. Basically, the doctor says, "Okay, well that happened. Where do you want to go to next?" And and Turlough's like, "Hey, how about you just take me back to my home planet?"
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't happen until all the way in season 21 in Peter Davison's penultimate story, Planet of Fire, where we finally find out, oh, hey, Turlough's first name, where he's from, what the race is, and all that jazz. That he's from Tryon and all that.
Yep.
So what happened between, like, hey, let's go to the home planet, and then, the next story, the King's Demons, where that's completely forgotten.
Yeah. I think it was one of those things where it just could have been where they filmed out of order and then they just got mixed in the jumble somehow. But it is strange that he wants to go home right then and there, and then the next time you see him, he's back in medieval England.
Right.
So it's
completely, like the just. Oh, hey, remember that request? Oh, yeah, forget about that.
Yeah.
We get a little sidetracked, I guess. I don't know. But
like, well, you wanted to kill me, so you can wait, boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll go. I'll get around to it. Or, hey, being the Fifth Doctor, maybe he tried. But like Tegan trying to get back to Heathrow Airport just didn't work out.
Right.
For a while. Funny how that happens. All right. Anything else about the story?
No,
you want to cover?
It's just a very, very fun adventure.
All right. So, do you have any favorite quotes you want to share?
There was a few really cool lines strewn in and about, but I don't know, not necessarily the favorite, but the one I said earlier with when the very very first time that she meets Mariner, he's talking about how she got on board, and he says, "Oh, stowaway." He says, "I shall clamp you in irons." It's just like, oh, jeez.
It just got worse.
Out of my head.
It just keeps getting worse, doesn't it? Yeah.
Hey, he didn't get a good start to begin with, and then that happens, and it's just like, okay, you're just creepy.
Yeah.
But I love the dialogue between Stryker and the Doctor because, like I said, the Doctor doesn't like Eternals. And the Stryker being an Eternal, he's not too fond of ephemerals. Overeducated ephemerals like Time Lords.
Yeah, he kind of throws a little bit of shade. There's actually one of the quotes I have was, he's like, you are a Time Lord, a Lord of Time. Are there lords in such a small domain?
Yes.
Time being small to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how he kind of viewed things a little bit.
Yeah, he was on his little high and mighty horse there.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought there was a good line from the Doctor to Stryker where he says, "You know how impulsive the young are." Oh, no, I don't suppose you do.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that was good. Mariner with Tegan being, like I said, Mariner being creepy. He says, "You are life itself. Without you, I'm nothing. Don't you understand?" Tegan's like, "What?" Mariner says, "I am empty. You give me being. I look into your mind and see life, energy, excitement. I want them. I want you. Your thoughts shall be my thoughts. Your feelings, my feelings." So creepy. And Tegan's like,
who's usually like always talking. She's silent throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, her mouth is just like dropped to the floor at this
speechless.
point. Yeah, Tegan's like, "Wait a minute, you're trying to tell me you're in love?" And then Mariner says, "Love? What is love? I want existence." What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. No.
Hey, like I say, it's very, very childlike.
Right. So creepy.
Yes.
Then lastly, I had Captain Rack with the Doctor, where she catches him spying and goes, "Spying, Doctor?" The Doctor replies, "Well, I'd hardly call it spying. We were welcome as guests given the freedom of the ship." And Captain Rack replies, "And you think freedom extends to a door marked danger?"
Mm-hmm.
And Justice collar nervously. Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Done busted. All right, so what's your rating for this story?
Well, like I said, it's a favorite of mine. I watch the episodic version as much as I watch the special edition from time to time. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, this is like I said, this is 8 out of 10 sailing yachts.
There you go. Well, I give it a little higher than you. I really like this one, so I give it 8.5 out of 10. Upgraded decorative vegetables.
There you go.
So upgrade, yeah.
Upgrade. Not wilted anymore.
Yeah. And you notice, once again, the Doctor steals celery. So, like he did in Castrovalva. So.
Yep.
He's a vegetable thief. All right.
Decorative vegetables.
So, reverse the polarity. So I was thinking about this, and if you liked Enlightenment, I hope you did. If you're looking for something from the modern era, how about Can You Hear Me?
Ooh.
The seventh episode of Series 12 that just came out last year, 2020, that horrible, horrible year.
Mm-hmm.
Written by Charlene James and Chris Chibnall. And in this one, the 13th Doctor drops her companions off in 2020 Sheffield to spend time with friends and family, while she responds to an alert from Aleppo, Syria, in 1380. And there, she saves Tahira, the last patient alive in a mental hospital, from a threatening creature. Meanwhile, the Doctor's companions have dark visions and certainly kind of like nightmares, and after they contact the Doctor, she uses the TARDIS's telepathic circuits to track down Graham's vision, locating it near a spacecraft lodged between two planets, preventing the planets from colliding. And inside the craft is a small prison structure with a power source protected by a quantum fluctuation lock. They also find signals being sent to Earth from the prison. The Doctor manipulates the lock, while the others end up being captured by a dark-clothed man who reveals himself as the immortal god Zelen, and thanks the Doctor for rescuing his ally, Rakaya, another immortal god that had been trapped inside the prison.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big connection here. And even make matters worse, so Zelen also mentions other immortal beings, including the Celestial Toymaker, the Guardians, and the Eternals.
Yep.
So that's the main connection here for this one.
Okay.
And of course, the Zelen and Rakaya are trying to, sending nightmares from human, to keep Rakaya sane while she was in prison. Zelen sent her nightmares from humans on Earth, and they end up trapping the Doctor, traveling to Earth to feed off the nightmares. But of course, the Doctor frees herself and lures the gods to Aleppo, and then traps the gods and the creature that was in Aleppo inside this prison. Mm-hmm. And then return to Tahira to her own time, and the others go back to 2020 Sheffield to recover. But while they discuss future traveling with the Doctor shows up and says, "Oh, hey, we're going to go visit Mary Shelley." The end.
Mm-hmm.
And they do. So.
See, I could.
So essentially, the immortal. This is another one where we're dealing with immortal beings, and this one I thought was interesting because they also give a specific name check to the Eternals and the Guardians, Black and White Guardians.
Yeah, I figured if you weren't going to go with this one, it would have been the Ghost Monument because of the race.
That was my other one because it's a big outer space, like amazing race.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about that one. I was thinking about that one too. So maybe you just watch both. Hey, watch the Ghost Monument and Can You Hear Me?
Check out some Jodie.
There you go. Can't go wrong with that, right? So listener feedback. Got a couple here, a couple feedbacks. Now, Dave Proctor was just on last time where we talked Carnival Monsters from the John Pertwee era, but thankfully he's back writing us emails about Enlightenment along with Holly Mack. So cheers to Holly, cheers to Dave for writing in. So Holly writes in about Enlightenment. Hey, Charles and John. And she also adds Jesse, but sadly Jesse's not here. Hopefully soon, just fingers crossed and everybody keep thinking about Jesse. The Black Guardians in Turlough. Just the opening bit with the Black Guardian crowing that he would have his victory over the Doctor reminded me slightly of the Valyard that would be making an appearance later on during the Sixth Doctor's run. Tegan knows something is up when she finds wetsuits aboard a ship that's way too old to have them. Of course, they would wind up on a ship race that could also lead to certain death. The Eternals seem to be quite the interesting bunch trying to find out human behavior, and Turlough's up to his old self trying to communicate with the Black Guardian. Turlough jumping overboard to try and free himself from doing the Black Guardian's bidding was something that I did not see coming when I first watched this. It was a little dark for Doctor Who back then, right?
Yep.
Turlough and the Doctor figured out part of the reason behind Rack's power and how they can try and stop her. And, of course, the tiara that Tegan's wearing would have a red stone in it that Rack could control her with. And that breaking the gem in the tiara would only intensify the power instead of destroying it. The Doctor trying to make Rack see reason with the power that she's using. And Turlough refusing the Enlightenment and getting rid of the Black Guardian was the great character development. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Cool.
So, thanks for writing in and sharing your thoughts, Holly. Really appreciate it. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, we have Dave Proctor writing in about Enlightenment as well. Dave writes in and says, hello, TARDIS crew, and best wishes for a speedy return of the missing member, Jesse. Yeah, just feels a little weird for me without my partner in time. Go figure. In the Next Stop Everywhere Continuum, we have gone from the hold of a ship to the hold of another ship since last week's Carnival of Monsters.
There you go.
This is dynamic planning, Charles. Well, sure. That was all part of my master plan. I'll take care of that. Yeah, sure, whatever. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's right.
The Guardians of Time. We haven't seen them for a while. I guess we're putting together another key. No, not quite. Alas, no Romana. Yeah. It would have been kind of interesting to see Romana facing the Black Guardian again, right?
Oh, I think she would have gave him a piece of her mind.
Yeah, especially, she isn't quite Lord President yet, but, it's coming up. The Doctor equals ship's cook. This seemed important, but was never used for any point. I think it was just a gag. I think it was just a one-off gag. Yeah. I got a brief Star Trek vibe when the Doctor is told resistance is futile.
Yep, same thing.
But remember, Doctor Who came up with it first before the Borg. Because the Borg were ripped off from the Cybermen. Everybody knows this.
Yep. And if you don't, you do now.
Cybermen were 1966. The Borg were 1989.
Yep.
So it's pretty obvious. Let's see. We're not on a yacht. We're on a ship, a spaceship, a three-masted space schooner. Look at Dave getting all nautical here. Managers in this reality are not concerned with worker welfare. Space Amazon. Doctor upgraded his celery. I guess one finds opportunities where least expected. It's not often you run into celery, so, it's not like the Doctor goes to the supermarket. He just has to pick it up, update his lapel apparel when he can. Turlough is not trustworthy. No. I don't see why the Doctor keeps him around. Well, see, there were times that the Doctor didn't really see that either. The power of darkness focused as a weapon. Darth Vader's seal of approval. Hiding the TARDIS in the Doctor's mind. This is a neat trick that the Doctor apparently cannot retain. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty clever way to hide the TARDIS, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
Another
clever.
little trick of the Eternals.
The Doctor turned down Enlightenment. The Buddhist message here is interesting. As I understand it, they believe that one continues to be reborn or regenerated into new forms until they reach Enlightenment, right? This was almost the end of Doctor Who. I give this story 7.5 useless pressure suits that scare the crew but are not needed. I'm going to place a bet that the reverse the polarity will be the curse of the black spot. Well, I see why you picked that one because, hey, pirates, You know, you
Yeah.
got Captain Rack and the crew of the Dauntless, right? So yeah, I kind of see that, but I went with a better story than The Curse of the Black Spot. Again, good though. It's prosperity and health for Jesse Jackson. I guess he's wanting prosperity and health for Jesse Jackson. See y'all next week. Stay healthy, everyone. Thanks, David K. Proctor. Well, thank you,
Sounds good.
Dave. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, obviously our thoughts are with Jesse Jackson. So if everybody do it as a personal favor once again to keep Jesse in your thoughts. We got 2 more weeks to his big surgery, so send him all the positive vibes, everybody.
Yep.
Because we need him to pull through this. All right. If you want to be like Holly and Dave, write to us nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter at nextstopsmg on Twitter. Facebook, of course, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Or Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. And John, where can they find you? I know you're busy, but when you find time to go back and work on your miniatures or just indulge yourself a little bit and have some fun, where can they find you out there in the cosmos, like the Eternals?
Oh, like the Eternals. Well, on Facebook, I got a little page called the Ohio Type 40. Just a bunch of Doctor Who fans. Not a whole lot going on because there's not a whole lot of Doctor Who going on right now, so it's kind of quiet. And then also going to be celebrating 1 year in June of my YouTube channel, Out of This World Models and Minis.
Congrats.
I thank you. I'm up to at the time of recording, I'm up to 47 subscribers, which is like more than I expected for this little channel.
Right.
But I'm hoping for 50 by my 50th birthday in June. So
there you go. Do John a solid and hey, get him 3 more to get him up to 50. Everybody.
Yeah, just give me 3 more. I've got the K9 model build on there. It's 2 parts. It's getting some really good views on there. And I've got more Doctor Who models in the works, so
excellent.
Keep your eyes peeled for it.
Anything you want to tease?
Well, I've got a let's see. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but there is a special weapons Dalek up there that he's all gray.
I see it. Is that it on the second shelf?
Oh, let's see. He is. Yep. Right on the second shelf there next to the Emperor from Remembrance.
Okay, excellent.
He's got to get cleaned up and painted. And I also have a resin Dalek saucer from the second Peter Cushing movie.
Excellent. Yeah, we just talked that one not too long ago. Daleks Invasion Earth, 2150
AD. Love that movie. So, yeah, I got the...
DJ Nick and I had a lot of fun talking that one.
I love those movies. So, yeah, I got the model of that Dalek saucer. That's going to be coming up probably in the next 2 or 3 months.
Excellent.
So,
did those help you unwind after all the craziness at work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I try to spend at least 20 minutes a day working on some models or minis, so I can at least have 2 projects going at the same time.
All right, well...
But that's where you can find me.
Well, like I said, everybody just give him 3 more followers, 3 more subscribers so that he can hit that 50 before his birthday.
It'd be a nice birthday present.
There you go. When is your birthday? So we can know what the deadline here.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. Okay, so you're 2 weeks before me because I'm June 16th.
Okay.
So I might as well go ahead and wish you a very early happy birthday, John.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
It's my big 5-0.
There you go. I remember mine. So, I turned 52 this year, so I'm 2 years ahead of you.
But if you ask my daughter, she'll say 35.
There you go. You got her trained.
Yes.
So, how much bribery did that take?
Oh, she's my little Whovian.
There you go. As for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Facebook and Instagram, and my blog at Geeky Things. Wait for the thing.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here. Next Stop Everywhere. So Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish, audios, and more. All kinds of comic book, sci-fi news of my other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including the Phantom Zone podcast they do with DJ Nick. Right now we're discussing Jupiter's Legacy, which is this new Netflix series based on the Image Comics series by Mark Millar and Frank Quitely. I don't know if you've had a chance to check it out, but we just talked the first 2 episodes, and we're going to be talking episodes 3 and 4 because we're doing 2 episodes a week to kind of help fill the gap until Loki appears on Disney Plus, and then we could start talking Loki for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this kind of tides us over. So I hope everybody checks that out on FanZone. We're having a lot of fun with that. And, there's a lot to talk about. A lot of very interesting concepts thrown at us, and a lot of very interesting character development so far in this show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's made for a fun first episode, and we talked about that. So the next 3 should be really interesting as well. And then Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast, I do with Zan Sprouse, whom of course you've heard here at Next Stop Everywhere, where we talk all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch. And right now we're in the middle of talking Hotel Room, which is this very obscure 1993 HBO series that they only air 3 episodes, but essentially it's almost like a kind of a sort of Twilight Zone. We made comparisons to this obscure NBC series called Nightmare Cafe from back in the 80s that featured Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger fame. So it's kind of like in that vibe. And it's got a different cast every week, so it's a bit of an anthology. But so far, it's been proving very interesting. I've never seen these episodes. Zan hasn't seen them since like '95, so it's a nice little blast from the past for her, and a nice little surprise for me. And then, of course, Drunk Cinema that I also do with Zan as our little side gig, or as DJ Nick likes to refer to it as the gold standard of the Oscars podcast after party, where Zan and I we kick back, have some adult beverages, adult conversation, and we watch all our favorite movies. And our last episode, we discussed Kung Pao Enter the Fist, the 2002 martial arts comedy classic, or at least cult classic, I should say. Had a lot of fun with that. It was Dan's first time watching that movie. And then we were going to do Clue with Christine Peruski, but because of Christine's work schedule, we're going to have to push that back 2 weeks. So to kind of fill the gap, Zan and I are going to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Nice.
A little movie. Maybe you've heard of it. Stars Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, directed by Steven Spielberg, written by George Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan. Maybe you've heard of that movie. No big deal, right? Only created this iconic adventure character, Indiana Jones. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's one of my all-time. I'd say it's one of my top 10 all-time favorite movies. So I'm really looking forward to this. Zan's a big fan, so she's looking forward to it. I hope everybody checks it out. And then after that, we're going to do Clue with Christine Peruski joining us, our very first special guest host on Drunk Cinema. So that should be fun. All right. John, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate catching up with you. Hope you had a good time, and I know your schedule's busy, but just anytime you want to come back, the invitation is always welcome.
Well, I appreciate it. I had a great time as always, and I like I said, I always love talking Doctor Who.
So anytime you get that Doctor Who itch you need to scratch, just let me know. I got you. I got you covered. I know we talked about a couple of episodes to discuss coming up, so we'll figure out things around your schedule if you've got some conflicts or what have you. So we'll get it worked out. But I always appreciate you being on, and I really had a good time talking tonight. I kind of needed this today, and so I'm really grateful to have you here because I really enjoy it.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I appreciate coming back. So.
All right. So coming up next on Next Stop Everywhere, episode 232, as we jump back to the modern era to discuss the Vampires of Venice.
Ooh.
It's kind of interesting. John was here when we talked State of Decay with proper vampires, but as we know, these aren't quite proper vampires in the Vampires of Venice. They're fish aliens. But because it's set in Venice, Italy, who better to discuss the Vampires of Venice than our own DJ Nick, our Italian stallion, as we discuss the Venice that was filmed in, I believe, Croatia or somewhere in there in Europe. So this should be interesting to talk about. And
that's going to be great to hear.
Yeah, Nick hasn't been on since we talked Daleks Invasion Earth 2150. So it's going to be good to talk about this. Nick's helping us out. We were going to have another special guest companion, but she unfortunately didn't feel comfortable after all the stuff that came out about Noel Clark and that horrible business, which I totally understand. So
Mickey the Idiot.
Yeah, Mickey the Idiot, literally Mickey the Idiot. But thankfully, Nick has agreed to pitch in and to help fill in that particular hole in the schedule. So I'm really appreciative.
Cool.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
You guys are going to have a great time with that one.
This is a great one. We got Amy, Roy, the 11th Doctor. It's one of the iconic Doctor Companion TARDIS teams, and it's Nick's there. And if you listen to us on Fandom Zone or Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, you know we can have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, John, thanks again. Everybody else, come back. Episode 232, The Vampires of Venice, with DJ Nick, yours truly, and the 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory, right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.